We're going to call this meeting to order. Oh my gosh.
It's a wonderful day.
I know it is. We welcome you all here today. We're going to start this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance by Charlie Ewert, an invocation by Stephanie Russell, and Thought of the Day by Commissioner Jenkins. Thank you. Charlie?
Please rise. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray together. Dearest Creator, we come together today in this meeting and we ask with hearts full of gratitude that Thy Spirit be with us, that we might be able to have honest and open discussion, that we might be able to feel the purpose of our callings here as stewards of this county and as servants in this community. We ask a special blessing on the commissioners and on the staff, that their hearts might be full of passion and that their minds might rest in reason, that they may work in coherence with each other to fulfill the obligations that we have before us and to perform the work that we are charged to do. We pray that we might be able to work together and we might be able to communicate, honoring our words and honoring the commitments that we've made to this community. We pray with humility and we pray with trust in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. We appreciate you, Charlie, and Stephanie. Thank you for that. So my thought of the day today has to do with water. You know, we got a little dusting of snow last night. You might got a little more than that up there in Huntsville. Yeah, it was good. You know, I had a meeting yesterday with Weaver Basin, and our water year started out really good. We've been at about 130% for the state. Actually, Weber County and some of our drainage has been a little lower than that. But all in all, well, yesterday in the numbers that were reported for the first time in the new water year, we dropped below 100%. So we need more water. It's been great to this point, but we got to have more water. So in your prayers and everything else, we'd appreciate it. We've got to get our water back up. Like I say, we got off to a good start, but we've had about a 4 or 5 week dry spell here. We've had a couple of small storms, but we need to get back in that storm cycle that we were in before, where we got some major storms and they had some consequences to them. And if we can do that, I still think we got to remember the bulk of our moisture comes in March and April. So it's not like we need to panic at this point. But that's the first point I wanted to say. The second thing is interesting. We went out yesterday to look at a dredging program. So the inlet to Willard Bay, they dredge that every 10 or 12 years. And it was interesting to watch that dredge taking place. That inlet's about, and I've got some pictures upstairs I brought so you two could see it. But anyway, that is about 300 yards long, maybe 350, that inlet channel. And the worry is that as moisture, as water comes in to Willard Bay, the muck and silt in it settle out as it heads out into the bay. So as small as that is, we actually create our own delta. You know how you have a delta, the inlet of a river? Well, we create our own delta at Willard Bay. And so what ends up happening is when the bay gets way low the way it is right now, we don't have the ability to get to the water that's in Willard Bay. We can't get it out because we create this artificial reef there. And so that's what they're doing. They're dredging it. And you think, well, okay, dredge it. I assumed I was going to go out there and see one of these long reach backhoes digging that out. Well, that's not what happens. In fact, they put the contractors are out of, I think they said North Dakota, and it's a very specialized contractor. Only a few people in the country that do this kind of stuff. And so they went on the side and created a new pond. And then they go out there with this track hole on a barge. And this barge floats in and out of there, and that they have a great big pump that just sucks. They get between 40 and 50% effluent, or not effluent, what would you call it? The mud in there. Silt, yeah, 40 to 50% silt. And that's a new technology. They used to only be able to get 15%. So anyway, they get between 40 and 50% now. And that thing sits there on the front of that barge like it's got a big vacuum on its bucket, and it just goes back and forth like this, and just back and forth, and then they move that barge. And it runs down the line through the pump and then out into this pond. And you sit there and watch that pond, and it's just solid black gudge that's coming out in there. And then as they pump it out, that settles out in the pond too. And eventually the water kind of goes to one end and the silt goes where it's being pumped, and they move that back and forth as they move out. But it's an amazing project to watch, to see how they do. They pump that silt out of there, and the importance of what they do. I had no idea that that was an issue at Willard Bay. I thought there was enough water coming out of there fast enough that would run straight out in there and would not create a delta in front. But it does. It creates one there. So I'm disseminating some knowledge to you today, and it's really unusual. That's something you would not normally know. And you learned something new today, Commissioner Harvey.
Yeah, I sure did. I think we ought to put you on the, make the thought of the day every week, actually. That's very... I could,
No, it's not a motion.
I could get recognized by the chair.
I wouldn't recognize that for anything. Whoa. Well, I tell you, I hate this when you look down and it says thought of the day, Commissioner Jenkins. And I haven't thought about it much. Oh, that's terrible. I got up in the office this morning and everybody starts jumping, you know about this, that, and of course you know what it's all about. You just got out of this. All right, so that's my thought of the day. Okay, we're going to go to consent items now. Let's start on this. Consent items are request for approval of warrants 49, 98 to 5042 and 465, 178 to 465, 410 in the amount of $2,221,363. Request number 2 is approval of purchase orders in the amount of $370,721. Item 3, request for approval of new business licenses. Item 4, request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Kerry Christensen for entertainment at the Hoff German Fest. So this we're approving after it's happened.
Ratify.
Yeah, we're ratifying it. And item 5 is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Park City Polka Players for entertainment at the Hoff German Fest 2022. Commissioners, any questions on that?
None from me.
Motion?
Make a motion, we approve the consent items as presented. I would like to hear a report, though, from Ricky or from Lynn today. if
Yeah,
that's
Lynn,
okay.
do you want to give us a report on that?
Certainly, Commissioners. Thank you.
Past that.
We had 278 warrants totaling $2.2 million. The largest of these were 20% or $441,000 for the transfer station for waste disposal, 13% or $291,000 to the jail for a nursing contract, 5% or $117,000 to Ogden City for paramedic services, and 5% or $103,000 for capital improvements. The Weber Center parking lots, all others there were less than 5%. And we had 30 purchase orders totaling $370.7 thousand. The largest of these, 43% or $158,000 to operations for an IT cooling system, and 10% or $37,000 to the transfer station for loader and skid tires, and all the rest of those were less than 5% of the total.
Very good. Thanks, Lynn. Now I would accept a motion.
A motion to approve the consent items.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. I approve that. So, Commissioner Harvey, while we're sitting right here, we just approved some items of the German Fest. Tell us a little bit about that, how that turned out. That was just last weekend.
Just a lot of great, so the German Fest was started in Ogden about 30 years ago, moved out to the Golden Spike Event Center when former mayor of Ogden, Scott Snedden, kept his relationships with the city of Hof, Germany. According to Sister Cities International, it was the first sister city relationship between the United States and Germany since the Second World War, and was facilitated by the Brownings when they were going back and forth manufacturing guns over near there. And so the Brownings helped facilitate it. We put together the sister city. We thought it was important to keep it alive. Weber County, not necessarily Ogden City, is the one that really done the lion's share of the work on it. And we kept it going out at the Golden Spike Event Center. At the time, a great civic-minded community personality, Siegfried Meyer. Siegfried's was a great German place down in Salt Lake, a restaurant, but he'd make all the food. Unfortunately, his life ended early with a tragic motorcycle accident. His son did his best to keep it going, but it was just difficult to keep the food piece, which is critical to this German festival. The food and the entertainment are the two critical pieces going. And then the second blow, so our chefs at the Ogden Eccles Conference Center came up with some great recipes, but they were preparing the food in the professional kitchen that we have at the conference center. They would package it, move it to the Golden Spike, unpackage it, put it together, and serve it. A lot of extra steps there. With COVID happening, we canceled the Whole Fest last year in 2021, and then it was revived, but to help save labor, we moved it down to the Ogden Eccles Conference Center from out at the Golden Spike, where the kitchen equipment is. The real German folks came to me Friday and Saturday, and they were, many of them, just volunteered information on how good the German food really was, which is a real credit to the staff over there at the Ogden Eccles, Chef Dave and his others that are in that place. They came up and replicated some great recipes. Very well done. It was very well attended. We exceeded our expectations. And this year, it wasn't the highest grossing year we'd ever had, but with those major changes with COVID, with the outbreak of Omicron, everything else that was happening, the fact that we still did an event and did as well as we did, super happy. The entertainment was really good. They were glad to be back there. And the people, I was there both days, and the people that attended seemed to have a really good time. So thank you for giving me a chance to talk about that. It's just a wonderful feeling inside there. Good, happy, wholesome, friendly, family fun.
That's good. That makes me happy to hear that. Great report. Thank you. We appreciate that. All right, first action item, F1, is request for approval to notice the bond trustee of Zion's First National Bank to initiate the calling of some of the Series 2000 A, B, and C Weber County, Utah variable rate demand hospital revenue bonds. John Bond, this is something quite complicated. Could you take a shot at it, please?
Sure. Let me just do a quick introduction. If you want more, we'll just dig in as far as you want to go. So in February of 2000, IHC Health Services, and there's a distinction between that and IHC proper, but IHC Health Services is their hospital arm. They're a nonprofit corporation here in Utah. They came to the county and asked that we be a conduit through which they could borrow money. So the legislators, just before that point in time, decided that it was appropriate to create more economic development and health services and growth in that area, that they allowed partnerships to be created between entities and counties. And so they created that in statute. And so with that being in play, there was an interlocal agreement that was put together with Weber County, Wasatch County, Washington County, Salt Lake County, because those were the locations where IHC wanted to expand their presence. They came to Weber County and asked if we would be the conduit through which those monies could be borrowed, and that there was $125 million of projects at that point in time that are already borrowed roughly under $500 million for other projects, but at that point they needed another $125 million. They asked Weber County to sponsor that, in effect, by creating the bond, go out to the market, get the money, lend it to them, and they then would be solely responsible to pay it back. It is on our books, so Ricky, the clerk auditor's office, will have shown that on our comprehensive annual financial report annually since that point in time. They came to us last week and said, can you quickly arrange to have do your part so that we can pay these bonds off early? They were done in 2000. The bonds peeled off in 2032, 34, 35. So 12, 13 years early, they want to pay these bonds off. The paperwork requires the county, though, to begin the process. So their bond counsel out of Chicago has prepared a document that is signed by IHC, Health Services, Weber County, as well as the trustee, Zions Bank. And we're asking you if you'd consider signing that document in behalf of that process so that they can call the bonds and, in fact, pay them off and 12 years early. Do you have questions more from there?
Great presentation. Commissioners, any questions?
No questions. I don't see any issues with this, JB. I think it's always a good thing to pay off debt, which it appears they're doing. So, and it comes off our books at some point in time in the future. So, with that, Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion.
I'll accept that.
I'd move to approve action item F1 as presented by Mr. John Bond, the calling of the bonds by IHC.
Second with a short comment.
Please.
Thanks for being the best treasurer, not just in the state, but in all the land. You're really wonderful at what you do, Mr. Bond.
You're very
Thank
kind.
you.
Thank you. I get a lot of support. And with that, if I can just say one thing.
Yes.
We had bond counsel Chapman Cutler, who is out of Chicago, review these documents. I had Gilmore Bell review the documents. Our county attorney's office was able to go through those. And with that all being said, as well as our financial advisor, during the past few days since Wednesday when I was notified of this, it was kind of compressed as far as putting all this stuff together, but they have the right market time and everything else to get this done. I had a lot of support to get this to this point, so I appreciate that.
Very good. Well, I agree with my two fellow commissioners. To pay off debt is a good thing, and this makes me happy. This shows that IHC is healthy and things are going good for them, and that makes me happy. So with that, we'll place this motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. No opposition, so that's unanimous. Thanks, John. We appreciate you presenting this.
Take good care.
That's great. Item F2 is a request for approval of an interlocal agreement by and between Weber County and Washington Terrace City for the use of a city vehicle for law enforcement, VIPS program. Tyler Greenhoff.
There you go.
That sounds like it's German.
It is, actually.
Greenhoff. Did you go to the
Did
German
not,
Hof?
Sadly.
Guten Morgen.
Yes, I did not.
Greenhall.
So, good morning, Commissioners.
Tyler, go ahead.
I appreciate the time to come up here and present this. Before you guys have a copy of the agreement, I assume. This is just an agreement, one we've done similar with other cities between Washington Terrace and Weber County. They've been very gracious to allow us to use one of their city vehicles for our volunteer base. We actually, about a quarter of our volunteers currently for the VIPS program actually reside within Washington Terrace, and so the city stepped up and offered to provide a vehicle that would make it easier for their volunteers to basically access the equipment and go out on their mobile patrols. And so we're very excited about it. They're very excited about it. I get calls on it all the time. We've got all the equipment ready and everything. We're just kind of waiting for the approvals, and we'll get them off and running. So, you guys have any questions or?
Commissioner Ford, this is in your portfolio.
No questions. I'd just like to applaud the Sheriff's Department. Again, the law enforcement volunteers, the VIPs, have done a great job in this county and taken a lot of pressure off our existing officers and let them do more in line with what comes into their portfolio. So I fully support this.
Yeah, it's a great program. It's the way I talked with a lot of the volunteers, and it's neighbors looking out for neighbors. I mean, they know their neighborhoods a lot better than some of us do, and so when they recognize that something's out of place, it's just a very active and very involved neighborhood watch program. So it's excellent.
Well, I'm ready for a motion then.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Very good. Motion approved in a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Tyler. We appreciate you coming. That's great. Item 3 is a request for approval of an interlocal agreement by and between Weber County, Washington Terrace City for the use and placement of flock safety cameras on Washington Terrace City property. Colby Ryan.
Good morning, Commissioners. So, we've been working on the flock safety cameras for a little over 6-7 months now. As of Friday, we had 9 out of the 10 cameras installed. They ran into some issues with the supply and demand and computer chips sitting out in the ports, not being able to be delivered, but we finally have our 3 cameras up in Washington Terrace. We're just waiting for the computer program to get started with using this. With that, we'd like to enter into a local agreement with Washington Terrace that gives us permission to place Weber County funded flock cameras on city property.
Commissioner Farr, this is your portfolio.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. We talked about this some time ago.
Yes, sir.
6-7 months ago, as I recall. Can you just remind us again of what the use of these flock cameras in? I know we've been through this, and I know there were some delays because of our delivery schedule, supply
Yes.
chain schedule. Could you just inform us and the public exactly what the use is going to be for this,
Yes.
the intended purpose?
So the flock safety cameras are a vehicle recognition camera. They're a stationary camera ran by solar panel, but these cameras are used for active investigations rather than traffic enforcement or driver's license registration enforcement. We actually will have what's called a hot list that we enter into the flock safety cameras. So they start looking for vehicles that match either wanted vehicles by any department in Utah, or Amber Alerts, missing persons, any kind of vehicle that has a special law enforcement interest. So when we get information on felony warrants or felony drug runners or stolen vehicles, we can enter those plates into our system, and these cameras will start watching for that vehicle and then give law enforcement notification of every time one of these wanted vehicles passes one of our cameras, their location, and what direction they're going. These cameras can also be used in past investigations. So if we have a string of vehicle burglaries going on where a witness gets a description of the vehicle but doesn't get a license plate, we can enter in those descriptions of the vehicle, and the next time it passes one of our cameras, it'll give us alerts and take photographs of the rear of the vehicle to get a license plate number for detectives to follow up on.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to be clear on that because I think, Commissioner Jenkins, it was you that we talked about this, was concerned about possibly using these flock cameras for vehicle citations, speeding, et cetera. And yeah, we're not like they are in Germany, talking about the Hof, so you can drive fast and then get a ticket in the mail. That's not the intended purpose. It's
No, sir.
basically additional eyes on the ground to help our sheriff's office in investigations. So I just view this as a tool that very much needed in our county, and will take some very needed resources to the areas that deliver the results. So I'm happy to support this.
And we've already spoken with other mayors, and the name just went out of my head, but we've already worked with Mayor Slaterville and Plain City, who have opted to lease cameras through their city and give the sheriff's office permission to use that data. So the more we get these going, the more cities see the results of what these cameras can do. Ogden City's used them for a couple of years now. So Marietta Slaterville just signed on for 4 cameras, and Plain City just signed on for 6 of their own. So once we get them all up and going, they'll all interlink with each other, even the cameras in Ogden City, so we can use everybody's information to help solve cases and prevent further cases of vehicle burglaries, vehicle thefts, and crimes like that.
Commissioner Harvey, any questions?
Only a mind full of smart aleck comments right now, but we certainly, of the 2 Ryans we have working in our sheriff's office, it's obvious we've got the more brilliant one here.
Chief Reese would agree with you on that
Yeah,
one.
I'm sure he would. No, thanks for bringing this before us today.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Farr.
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the interlocal agreement by and between Weber County and Washington Terrace City for the use and placement of flock safety cameras on Washington Terrace City property as presented today in F3.
Thank you.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4, F4, request for approval of a cooperative agreement by and between Weber County, Utah Department of Public Safety to continue to offer 24/7 sobriety program. Cameron McCarthy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So a little background on 24/7 sobriety. Weber County became the pilot program for the 24/7 sobriety program in 2017. And in 2019, we had it open to all of Weber County as a sentencing program for first and second DUI offenders to maintain their driver's licenses while going through rigorous testing processes. They come in twice a day for alcohol testing to maintain their driver's licenses. And then in May of this year, it became state law. So now we're looking to move out of the pilot program phase and into that more permanent phase. 24/7 program is from what I've seen, a spectacular program. In the year that I've been over at Kiesel, we've seen, since the pilot inception, we've seen almost 100 people come through it with an 83% success rate, which means there's 83 more people that kept their driver's licenses, stayed out of jail, and continue to provide for their needs that we didn't have to, as taxpayers, have to take care of.
So the success was 83 out of 100?
83%. Yeah.
Wow.
We have about a 99% daily testing success rate. So just about every single day, everybody's successful when they come in for their daily tests. The other big positive of this program is that it's completely offender funded. So the DUI offender that sentenced this program pays for all the costs associated with this program. So.
Good. Any questions?
That's great.
Commissioners?
Now, a comment.
You bet, Gage. Go ahead.
So I was in the legislature when we talked about the pilot programs. In fact, I think the legislation came out of a former representative from North Ogden. I helped him with this bill. And I've talked to a number of people that have gone through this program, and I believe that success is in just what you said. Proof's in the pudding. This basically keeps people that have had an infraction with DUI, gives them the ability to improve their lives, stay at work, doesn't create additional hardship for the family, and the benefits of this are they pay for it, just as you said, and it includes daily testing. So it serves a dual purpose. It keeps them at work, and when you do daily testing, if they fail, they come off the program. So I think it works.
Brings a
in,
lot of accountability to the participant.
yeah, it works for the public and it works for the offender. So it's, and again, I'm glad to see that this now goes statewide rather than just a pilot program.
So you think this was Glenn Donaldson's program, or Bill?
No, it was, who was the one that came after Glenn?
Brian Wilcox?
No, North Ogden.
I don't know. All right, well, sounds good.
Anyway,
All right.
motion to approve.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve number F4, the cooperative agreement by and between Weber County, Utah Department of Public Safety. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thanks, Cameron.
Thanks, Cameron. Item F5 is a request for approval of resolution. Weber County Commission of Weber County formally requesting withdrawal from the Northern Utah Environmental Resource Agency. New Era, we call that.
Era.
Sean Wilkinson's, go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. Commissioners, back in 2014, the county joined with several other entities in the Northern Utah Environmental Resource Agency. This agency was a continuation of a former program where several of these agencies were working together to find sites for landfills or other waste management type projects. Since 2014, several of the entities that are part of New Era purchased a landfill down in southern Utah County. Weber County did not participate in that, and as such, we really don't play much of a role in the organization anymore. So this is a formal request to withdraw our membership from the New Era organization. Do you have any questions? I know we've talked about this previously.
Mr. Harvey?
Remind us of the fiscal savings to the county
I
annually?
believe it's about $4,000 that we pay annually.
For dues is all.
For dues, correct. And then we do have two members that sit on the New Era board.
Commissioner Jenkins and myself.
Right.
And we've been to those meetings.
Yeah, this is in my portfolio. If you remember, when I first came on, you and I took a trip and went down there and really immersed ourselves in this. And we can really see no reason. There's no advantage we have to belonging and no reason to stay in this. So I agree with this, that we should withdraw. Mr. Crockett?
If I may, Commissioners, with this interlocal entity that was created as well, if you'll recall, a lawsuit was filed against this entity, and Weber County was named as a party, and it took quite a bit of resources for us to get out of that lawsuit and let the other parties know that we were not the entity to be involved in that litigation. It was a federal case, and it resulted in our favor, but it was a very massive federal case that took a lot of resources. So a cost to that. And part of the process of getting out of this interlocal entity is that this is the first step of providing notice to the entity. We have to give 6 months notice, and then the board will vote to determine whether or not to allow withdrawal. But I know that Logan City has also taken similar action.
Well, we've talked about this. This is nothing new. And questions out there of you? Yes, Commissioner Harvey.
No, I'll entertain it. I'll make a motion if you're ready. I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 08-2022, withdrawing from New Era, or the Northern Utah Environmental Resource Agency.
I'll second that.
Very good. I have a motion and a second on Resolution 8-2022 to withdraw ourselves from the New Era Agency. All in favor, say aye.
Commissioner,
Aye.
I
Well, it's a
believe
roll
it's a
call.
roll
It's a
call.
roll
Oh, roll call, that's right.
Yeah, roll call vote for Resolution 08-2022. Commissioner Farrar?
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye.
Chair Jenkins?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is a request for approval of a rezone of approximately 5 acres on the hillside, south side of the intersection of Old Snow Basin Road, Highway 39, from a CVR1 to CV2 to FR3. Anyway, this is a redevelop and the actual rezones happened. It's a development agreement we're looking at today, right, Charlie?
Yeah, approval of the rezone was done in July, and it's just execution of the development agreement.
That's true.
The
So-
rezone doesn't take effect until the development agreement has been signed. We've had a lot of discussions about this. Last week, you tabled it pending a little bit more review, and here it is back before you again. I don't intend on belaboring that point unless you guys want more details or information.
Commissioners, anything you'd like to ask?
I'd like Charlie to plug in and pull up a map if he could.
Yes, would you please?
Can do.
And by the way, thanks to Lori Brinkerhoff sitting in our audience today, the correct answer, North Ogden, is Fossin.
That's it. You know, at my age, I start losing track.
Justin Fossin.
You're right. That's exactly right.
He wasn't there that long, though, was he?
8 years, wasn't he? 6, 8 years?
I think he did 2 terms.
Oh,
Yeah, 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
there we go.
All right, here you.
That's a perfect view, just where I wanted to be for me. If I might, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, please.
As I look, now if we were to look at this from a higher view, I look at Highway 39, and from this map, I'm going to look in the cul-de-sac immediately adjacent to or west of the proposed property rezone, right there. Thank you for circling that. And even some of the other lots in that same subdivision. This is a result of what you'd like to call, Mr. Chair, what do you do?
What do I call that?
Call it a bunch of crap is what you call it.
okay.
Not that the lots are crap, but cluster subdivisions. I know how you feel about cluster subdivisions and
I
that they're
don't care
crap.
for 'em.
No, and then as I look across the street, what's the zoning? How many per acre across the street, Charlie?
With water and sewer, you could potentially get 21 units to the acre or so at maximum density.
So, and then the other lots there are, looks like the lot sizes, as I've done some research, there are some thirds and 17 fives and halves in there, right?
In here or up in here?
Right there.
Up near there or some?
No, let's bring it back
Oh, sorry.
to the
there's a delay.
cul-de-sac, thank you.
Yeah, I think the smallest one is a half acre, I think. Well, actually,
No,
the smallest one is this one here.
Mm-hmm. That's what I pulled up,
Yep, about a third.
third acre. Thank you. That's, I wanted to make that point before we get to the point of making a motion.
So what's your point here, is that there are lots of different size lots around?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Goes all the way from half acre down to 20 to the acre.
You know, and one of the things I think because there are people listening or will listen to this too, you know, Commissioner Frohr, there was a gentleman that commented, yes, I've been driving up there since 2003, and I thought, wow. You know, he says, I've been doing this a long time, and I remember turning that corner in 1978 by myself, you know, and driving up there since 1976. And so, but back then, that was the only way to get to Snow Basin, and now it's a road to nowhere. So, you know, it's a road to a lock gate. And so it's different. The use has changed over the years. And so when all this was going on, I can see where people that were elected to make decisions back there, I can see how things would happen, things change. And so I take very seriously our responsibility to make sure it's responsible as we move forward. I have some ideas, but I'll hold for now until we hear from some of the other commissioners. You guys chortle or chuckle at me, but that's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Frohr?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Harvey, very astute, yeah. And you're right, that was the one time the only access into Snow Basin. Again, I've been by that, as I've said before, many, many years ago. As I recall, that was slated for a hotel, and I think that was the reason for the rezone back in ancient history. We know now that that's, at least my opinion, that's not going to be a site for a hotel because of changes in the demographics of Snow Basin and really the growth of the valley. So as I look at this, Mr. Chair, we have a current zone of a commercial, which obviously would allow higher density, very similar to what we see across the street to the northwest. and I think you mentioned 28 units per acre as a maximum. But the request for the FR3 zone, together with the development agreement, probably makes, in my opinion, makes more sense than a commercial zone. Now, it's been suggested that we look at the FV3, which would only allow one home. And as Commissioner Harvey pointed out, there's no FV3 within very close proximity to this site. So I don't agree that putting a single-family residence on the highway like that intersection makes any sense at all. So the FR3 zone, it appears, at least in my opinion, to be a good compromise, a good negotiation between the FV3 and commercial. Now, this is up to obviously the developer, the owner of the property, to make that decision. But I support the FR3 with discussions related to the development agreement, because I do have some concerns in terms of the proposed development agreement with density, even looking at the decision or suggestion, recommendation, I should say, that came from the Planning Commission to do away with short-term rentals. That appeared, when we first heard this back in July, to be the major complaint. At that point in time, I think it was the only complaint from the residents up there was the fear of short-term residents. That was taken out, or has been proposed to be taken out with the final development agreement. Would that be correct, Charlie?
That is correct. Yep. It is.
And Charlie, what's the zone right now as of July?
As of July, your change made it to FR3.
FR3, so that is case today.
Right.
Okay.
From a CV.
CBR1.
CBR1.
So your development agreement, have you come up with anything with these folks that you recommend to us?
Sure. And Mr. Chairman, the applicant mentioned to me that he may want to address the bench if you're willing to do so. But in the development agreement, what you'll find is a section about uses. And the section about uses has, number one, no short-term rentals on the property. And number two, residential development is limited to 13 single-family dwellings. Now, at number two, the 13 single-family dwellings has been volunteered by the applicant, isn't something that would otherwise be mandated. It's been understood that it'd be 13 just because that's what's available for water and sewer in that area. But, I mean, the FR3 zone allows for more than that. So the applicant is willing to self-regulate and make sure that only 13 single-family dwelling units with no nightly rentals are allowed there. There's a provision in the development agreement that essentially says they've got 10 years before the agreement expires, and then after the agreement expires, the use regulations of that agreement maintain or stay assigned to that property as a legislative decision. So essentially, it's a de facto law after that agreement expires. So even if you were to change the FR3 zone or any other zone to allow nightly rentals, if you were to broaden that allowance, it wouldn't apply to this property because that development agreement would prevail.
Very good. So does the applicant care to address us? Please, feel free to come up. Please state your name again.
Todd Myers, CW Land, Centerville, Utah. This is a project that you're very familiar with. We've been here multiple times. We started off in April with Planning Commission's decision to support the rezone with the condition that there would be no overnight rentals. We did our best over the summer trying to convince the Commission that we could do it through regulation, that we could handle those overnight rentals. That still stayed as the issue that the neighbors were against. After you made the decision to rezone the property with a development agreement to prohibit, we had the confidence at that point to go to our investors and say, here's what we can do on this property. We can do 13 units. We can do no overnight rentals. It will not be allowed. Should we go ahead and close on this property? And that is the decision that we made and carried through right around Labor Day. And so we are ready to move forward with this project. It's a very simple development agreement. I would ask that you would vote on that as presented today.
Very good. Question? Okay. No. Thanks, Mr. Myers. Appreciate it. All right, I think it's time to make a motion if somebody cares to do it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'm going to take a stab at this. So as I stated, the FR3 zone, in my opinion, is the valid zone. It's already zoned that we've had some discussion, so that subject, in my opinion, now has been settled. The question at hand is the development agreement. And the development agreement that I understand has been talked about, not executed. Is that right, Charlie? Correct. To this point in time. So we don't have a signed development agreement. No. And that development agreement as proposed, I'm going to call it a proposed development agreement, would include the provision that no overnight short-term rentals be allowed. Correct. So what I'm going to, my motion would be this, Mr. Chair, that we approve Ordinance 2022-03 with the development agreement to state the use of no short-term rentals and with a maximum number of units to be built on this side of 10 units as prescribed in that development agreement. So again, the reason for that is I think that 13 units on that property is probably a little excessive, as I've been very familiar with that over the years. I think 10 units is a what I'm going to call a compromise, a fair compromise, and it's probably one that doesn't make either side happy, but sometimes we know in legislation when either side is happy, sometimes that's the best result. So that would be my motion.
Very good. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Commissioner? No? I'll second that with a few comments. I agree with you, Commissioner Farrar. I think this is a great compromise, and not everybody gets what they want, but it's good. This is good, and I'm very pleased with this, so I second that. Do you want to say anything before I call the vote?
You can call the vote, just to be forthright with the developer and with the citizenry. I would like to see even less density than 10. I think my max number was 9 third-acres, like it is. By the time they put the road in there, third-acre lots would just kind of grandfather in that whole development across the street. I can see where you go to 10 because of the all the development on the north side of the highway. I can see that, but I would like to see less. But this is a chair. This chair right here is used to getting 2-to-1 voted, as we learned last year. So that's okay. I'll be okay.
Well, very good. The motion's been stated. I think it's clear. All in.
Roll call.
This is going to be an ordinance.
Roll call.
Yeah. 2022-03. Go
Okay,
ahead.
roll call vote for ordinance 2022-03. Commissioner Farrar?
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey?
Nay.
Chair Jenkins?
Aye. Motion passes, or the ordinance passes. Very good. All right, next up is a public hearing. So we'd like to, I need a motion to adjourn this and go into a public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're in a public hearing.
We can see an inbox on the Zoom call. I don't know if that.
Thank you. Very good. First item on our public hearing is a amendment to Title 16, Chapter 8 of the Weber County Code of Ordinances governing impact fees. Mr. Chad Meyerhofer, welcome here.
Commissioners?
Chad, I want to thank you for attending that meeting last night. You were welcomed, and I know you didn't have to say anything, but it
wasn't much help, but
it was. It made me feel warm that you were there.
That's good. Good.
Go ahead.
So what we'll be bringing today's before you is the amendment to the impact fee. I don't know if you recall back a kind of about a year ago, we had a development submit for a lift station, and through that process, we come to find out that the lift station actually was going to cost quite significantly more than what we had previously in the impact fees, and so we looked at starting the amendment process of amending it. And essentially, what it went from is we were looking originally with the original impact fee, I think the lift station cost was right around $500,000. And what it's looking like it's going to be going in for is right around $800,000. So we looked at that amount, we looked at the units that it was going to service, and that's how we kind of came up with these amounts and looking at amending the impact fees. So I know we've been kind of through this a little bit before. If you have any additional questions, hopefully I can answer those.
Well, questions, Commissioner?
Not on that, no.
So,
800,000.
what does this, I do have some questions. What does this actually do now? What are we amending here? What, does this amend the way we charge that fee? Does it amend the way we divide it up?
So there are two different sewer impact fees. So we have different areas. So if you look on this actual ordinance, you can see in area 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are the 4 different lift station areas that we did look at. We took the amount of that $800,000 divided by the units that would be serviced within there to come up with what the price would be for the lift station itself. So one of the amounts in there is for the lift station. The other amount is for the collection lines throughout the county. If you look in the top up there, the $619.15 per ERU is a flat rate for everybody within the whole service area that we have for impact fees. And so the additional amount would be just for the lift station. So as you look at the area 1, it's the $1548.30, which entails an amount of $619.15 plus the amount of the lift station of $929.15. So
That I understand. How is this disseminated when we decide that somebody's going to build one of these?
So when a lift station comes in, we look at the area. You know, as you know, Commissioner, we have, I think, 2 others that are kind of on the docket that are looking at coming in.
Right.
So when it comes
So
in...
say one of these comes in and they bid it and the price is $700,000. Then what do you do?
So I think we'd have to look at, I mean, right now, we're going off of, you know, right now we've gone with the best information that we do have,
Right,
with the amount of units in there and with the pricing that we do have. We do realize that things are going to probably change here recently with zoning, with construction costs and things like that. The only thing we could do probably would be to amend it if it comes in less or more. The unfortunate thing with that is the amount, the developer that's required to install it, or if it's us as the commission that, or Weber County that comes up with the funds, you know, that's strung out through years with interest and more fees and stuff on top of it. So hopefully we'll be able to go through and actually make this a little bit better with a new impact fee study.
Chad,
but right
I love
now,
you. You know,
you're
you ought to be a politician. I mean, it really should. You can talk around a subject and never answer it. Once again, if a lift station comes in at $700,000, what happens to the county now? What do we do? What process does this kick into gear?
I think that process, if we looked at them at 800,000, we'd go back and have to review it at that 700,000 amount and probably amend it for that specific area for the
Okay,
amount
but
going off.
this means, what does the county share in and what does the developer share in? That I'm trying
so
to
right
get
now-
to that point. Does this decide that? I thought it did.
Right now, this doesn't. I mean, as you recall, I think with the one, let's bring it up, for instance, the Taylor Landing development, which we already have gone through. The developer fronted all those funds to install that. Essentially, we will be collecting these funds, and it'll be a pass-through. We collect them within the area, and it's passed on to the developer for that amount.
That's right.
So the county doesn't really come out of...
How do we decide how much to give him?
So
Because we give him the difference between the depth that is normally required and what we required, because we want more people to come into it. That's what we're paying him, right?
Margin.
The margin, right.
And I would have to go back and look at that agreement. Unfortunately, I don't have that with me on that. But we did do an agreement for that specific one. And I can't remember exactly how it was, but that's what we essentially do with the impact fees is look at, okay, what would it have cost you, and now what's it going to cost for the additional capacity to go in. So
All right, so you can't answer that.
No, not it.
You know, in a public hearing, that's important to have that answer. Because I'm of the opinion that that's what we're paying for, is the margin. Just what Commissioner Harvey said. The difference between what we would normally require and what we're requiring extra because of the depth we want.
Yes, so in this case too, Commissioner, keep in mind, and I may be confusing two different things, but with our collection lines, we do that, which is fairly easy for the depth of those lines. In this case, we are looking at the capacity as far as a larger vault, larger pumps, larger pressure line going out. So there's a lot more to a lift station than just the depth that goes into there. So those numbers are just a little bit different.
Thank you. Well, and so to his point, if somebody's coming in and getting ready to put in a lift station for 100 units, and this lift station that we want is going to be for 700 units, then that also is the margin, as you say.
Mr. Chair, though, a clarification,
Go ahead.
I think that's exactly right. So we pay for the differential for the margin, but we're bringing in an additional X number of people. That additional X number of people will pay the impact fee. So eventually, at some point in time, the county will get reimbursed for that additional fee. So we are actually fronting some money for that particular lift station with the idea that we're going to bring in more people have access to that will pay the impact fee. So we're not giving the developer a gift with additional depth. We're going to collect in the future. I just want to make sure
That's a good point.
make sure everybody understands that any money we put in will be paid back, gives the opportunity for additional people to develop and hook to the sewer, which we obviously want to get them off of septic tanks in that area.
Very good. Commissioner
Chair,
Harvey?
that's a great point, because it speaks directly to the county is not subsidizing the subdivision.
That's right.
Subdivision. That's correct. It's a way to make it happen and be more responsible, using, we're being very proactive in taking care of water preservation, clean water preservation for the future.
And I think the point needs to be made is that those people that we're allowing to come on to that lift station, their only alternative in some of those areas would be septic tanks. So we're looking at, we all know that septic tanks are something that we want to, from a Clean Water Act and other sources, we want to try to basically get away from septic tank in single-family homes.
Just to give you an idea, with the one lift station that's going on right now, I mean, it's about 860 units is what we've looked at. That may increase a little bit with the new master plan that's going out there, but the developer that's going in is probably about a quarter of that amount of units. So,
Very good. These are master planned lift stations, and that's why they're big and strategically located.
Yeah, great.
Very good. Thanks, Chad. All right, next item up of this public hearing is a request for services in the proposed Wheel Racing Service District. Mr. Christopher Crockett.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You bet.
If you remember, a month or so ago, an item came before the commissioners for the commissioners to consider providing service up in the Snow Basin area for a water improvement district. And the commissioners heard that request. They denied that request, which gave the statutory authorization for Snow Basin to go forward and petition to create its own water improvement district. Since that time, the petition was certified, a final plat has been issued, and all of the necessary documents have been filed with the Lieutenant Governor's office. So that process is near complete. This item that's before you today is the exact same process. It is a proposal by Snow Basin for the county to consider providing services, which would include roads, the construction and maintenance of right-of-ways, including curb, gutters, sidewalks, park and recreational facilities, transportation, including public transit, and then one I've actually never seen before, which is kind of interesting, it's kind of neat, an energy efficiency upgrade, a renewable energy system, or electric vehicle charging infrastructure. So the same process will continue. It's that choose your adventure type thing. If the county denies the service, they will pass a resolution denying that service, but there was also a request to allow the clerk auditor to certify a petition to create an independent service district, which would be the Wheeler Basin Service District. Any?
Choose your own adventure.
The statute, it depends. If you choose one route, there's a bunch of different statutes that are triggered. If you choose another route, there's another section of the code.
Choose your own adventure.
Yeah, those are those kids books that my family really enjoys. So.
Oh, very good. Well, there we go. Commissioners, any questions?
So I would, Mr. Chair, like to hear, and I know that there's been a lot of discussions with the Snow Basin development. Maybe Stephanie Russell or Rick Grover could just give us an update on what the intent here is, because I understand, or I understood it before, that Snow Basin was actually looking at Morgan County, Mountain Green, to service some of this area. And does that impact any of this?
Right. I don't believe it'll impact because that's a separate service addressing sewer. So we have the water improvement, and that's my understanding, but we have the water improvement district, which was the district that was just created a couple of months ago. And then an interlocal agreement, I assume that's what the mechanism they would use to provide sewer services. They would do that with Mountain Green. And then these additional services like roads, parks and rec, things like that will be through this Wheeler Basin Service District.
Okay.
So they're
I'm
all
right
separate.
then.
All right, okay.
Makes sense, yep.
Very good. All right, we're now going to go to public comments on this. All those who are here to comment on this, either of the items on this public hearing, please step forward, state your name. I'll give you one more minute. There's not much happening here today. These are not very controversial. Very good. With that, I'd accept another motion.
Motion to adjourn our public hearing and convene a public meeting, Mr. Chair.
Very good. I have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, we're back into our regular meeting. With that in mind, I have these two items before us. Would you care to take an action on these today? Is it appropriate today, either of you?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'll make the motion that we approve Ordinance 202205, which is amending Title 16, Chapter 8 of the Weber County Code of Ordinances governing impact fees. That was presented by the always competent Chad Meyerhofer.
Very good. I have a motion
I'll second that.
and a second. Roll call vote.
Okay, roll call vote for ordinance 2022-05. Commissioner Floor,
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey,
Aye.
Chair Jenkins.
Aye. All right. Any other motions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr.
He's on a roll.
Commissioner Hart.
Just so I don't get 2-1 anymore. Request approval of Resolution 09-2022 to decline a request, provided services to unincorporated Weber County.
Very good.
And I'm going to second that very good motion.
Very good. I have a motion and a second. Mr. Brandt?
Roll call vote for resolution 09-2022. Commissioner Floor,
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey,
Aye.
Chair Jenkins.
Aye. Very good. There's one more left here.
Sure, I'll be happy to. I'd like to make the motion, we approve the resolution 10-2022, authorizing the certification of a petition to create Wheeler Basin Service District.
And I'll second that as well. Another good motion.
That is a good motion. So we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Craig?
Okay, roll call vote for resolution 10-2022. Commissioner Floor,
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey,
Aye.
Chair Jenkins.
Aye. Very good. Well, that's good. Well, that's all our business today. Commissioners, either of you care to make a comment?
I'm good, thank you. Good meeting.
Mr. Harvey?
No comment
Oh.
right there. beautiful thought again.
Yeah.
I feel just to recognize me one more time for maybe the chair take all the thoughts.
No thoughts. It's good to have you both here, and it's great. So with that, I have one more motion.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. We are adjourned.